Friends, buckle up because we're talking about Trump and international relations, and trust me, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. In a move that surprised absolutely no one, Trump decided to punish South Africa. His weapon of choice? An executive order halting U.S. aid. Now why would he do that? Well, officially, it's because South Africa dared to challenge Israel at the International Court of Justice. But let's be real, this goes way deeper than that. On February 7, 2025, Trump decided to play world police, accusing South Africa of aggressive behavior for daring to support Palestinian rights. He even went as far as to justify his actions by citing the need to protect white South Africans. Yes, you heard that right, white people in Africa. Apparently Trump believes that white Afrikaners are facing unjust racial discrimination and need his help. Now you might be thinking, Trevor, this sounds a little familiar, and you'd be right. This isn't Trump's first rodeo when it comes to meddling in South African affairs. Remember that whole debacle back in 2018 when he tweeted about land seizures from white farmers in South Africa? Yeah, this is basically that, but on steroids. Trump's executive order is a blatant attempt to bully South Africa into silence. He's using U.S. aid as leverage to force them to abandon their support for Palestine and toe the line. But here's the thing, South Africa isn't backing down. They're standing their ground. And they're not afraid to call Trump out for what he is. A bully who's more interested in protecting his own interests than upholding human rights. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? The real reason Trump is throwing a tantrum and punishing South Africa, their support for Palestine. You see, back in January 2024, South Africa had the audacity to file a case with the ICJ, accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza, and well, that just didn't sit well with Trump. Now I'm not saying that South Africa is perfect, no country is, but their decision to take Israel to court over their actions in Gaza was a bold move, one that sent shockwaves through the international community. It was a clear message that they weren't going to stand by and watch as human rights were violated. Trump, on the other hand, has consistently sided with Israel, even when they've been accused of war crimes. He's moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, recognized Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and cut off funding to the Palestinian Authority. His support for Israel knows no bounds, even if it means turning a blind eye to injustice. So when South Africa dared to challenge Israel, Trump saw it as a personal attack. He couldn't stand the thought of a country standing up to his ally, especially not a country in Africa. And so he lashed out using his favorite tactic, economic warfare. Now some of you might be thinking, okay Trevor, but it's just aid. It's not a big deal, right? Wrong. Cutting off aid to South Africa isn't just some abstract political move. It has real, tangible consequences, particularly when it comes to the fight against HIV/AIDS. You see, one of the programs affected by Trump's executive order is PEPFAR, the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. This program, started under President George W. Bush, has been instrumental in providing life-saving antiretroviral treatment to millions of people living with HIV/AIDS in South Africa. But with Trump's cuts, PEPFAR funding has been slashed, putting the lives of millions of South Africans at risk. The potential consequences are dire increased infections, higher mortality rates, and a resurgence of a pandemic that had been brought under control. It's estimated that Trump's actions could lead to over 500,000 deaths and infections. Let that sink in for a minute. 500,000 lives hanging in the balance because Trump decided to throw a temper tantrum. This isn't just about politics anymore, this is about human lives. So how has South Africa responded to Trump's bullying? Well, they've done what any self-respecting nation would do. They've stood their ground, they've condemned Trump's actions, defended their right to an independent foreign policy, and vowed to continue supporting the Palestinian people. But they're also playing the long game. South Africa knows that it can't win a trade war with the United States. So, they're trying to mitigate the damage by negotiating new trade deals with other countries. They're also looking at ways to lessen their dependence on AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, a preferential trade agreement with the U.S. that's set to expire in 2025. Trump's actions have been met with outrage from the international community. Human rights groups have condemned the cuts to PEPFAR, calling them cruel and inhumane. Even some U.S. politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, have criticized Trump's decision, arguing that it undermines U.S. interests in the region. But Trump doesn't care. He's shown time and time again that he's willing to put his own interests above all else, even if it means sacrificing the lives of millions of people. And that, my friends, is the real tragedy of this whole situation.